Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, and this is your What's Happening Dracut. This is our 34th episode, folks, and tonight we have a roundtable discussion with 3 of the 5 candidates for school committee. But before we get into that, we're going to tell you a little bit about our show. We welcome you here at our overly ostentatious studios here at DATV on Mill Street in Dracut, and we are broadcasting live tonight, and you can catch us on DracutTV.org. I'm getting that wrong all the time. DracutTV.org, or you can go, if you're a Dracut resident and you have Comcast, you can go right on to your Channel 8, and we're live there, or you can follow us on Facebook. Please like our page, but you can follow us live on Facebook also. And with me tonight, we have Gordy Scott as the co-host. How are you, Gordy?
Good, John. I'm excited to have the candidates. I don't know who I'm going to vote for yet, so I'm excited to hear what these 3 candidates have to say. And I know we have a lot of viewers tonight. A lot of people have reached out to me via email and said what's on the show tonight. I let them know what's happening, so people are excited. They want to see what these guys have to say.
Yeah, and we've had 2 of the candidates that couldn't make it this evening, but 3 are here, and we're going forward with it, and they're the benefits of this great show tonight. But before we get into that, we want to have our usual weatherman come in and give us the weather report for the next 8 days. Take it away, Sean.
Fingers crossed.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me on once again. And here's the forecast for tonight. Cloudy conditions through the evening. Later on in this evening, though, there is a chance for a pop-up shower or 2 anytime, I think, after midnight, so until about 1 or 2 a.m., and that should clear out as we head into Thursday, though. It will be cloudy for most of the day. Heavy showers, especially after 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon hours, all the way up into the evening hours. So, again, heavy rain and heavy showers. Could even be a rumble of thunder or 2. As we head into Thursday evening. Winds are going to be coming out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles an hour. And then as we head into Thursday night, temps are going to drop back into the 40s. Once again, 44 degrees for a low temp as we head into Thursday night with evening rain and then partly cloudy after midnight. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. So again, heavy showers and maybe a rumble or thunder or 2 as we head into Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. And then as we head into Friday, temps are going to be in the 60s, near 70 degrees as we head into Easter weekend. And that's the forecast for now, everyone. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Sean, for that great weather report. And we wanted to let you know that if you're watching us on Facebook and you have any questions that you'd like us to ask the candidates, we're more than welcome to do that. And we're not going to take any phone calls during this segment. We're going to keep the show going for about an hour with the candidates, and then we're going to take a break. And then Gordy, myself, and Richard will come back with the final half an hour of the show where we'll talk about and kick around the Dracut politics a little bit in town today. All right? So to start it all off, I wanted to introduce each one of the candidates and give them all a few minutes or a minute to talk, right, Gordy?
Yep.
So why don't I turn it over to you and you can introduce the candidates and each one and let them have a minute to say something into the camera.
Sure. So We'll just go down the line and we'll ask you guys, we'll just go back and forth, ask you guys questions, but we wanted to start out first giving you each one of the candidates just a minute, look at the camera, ask the people, tell them a little bit about yourself and ask them to vote for you. So Linda, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Linda Truval, born and bred in Dracut, went through all the Dracut public schools, and actually my whole career was in teaching and administration in the school system. I retired after 40 years, and now I've come out of retirement and I'm teaching at a parochial school. So I have all the benefits of knowing about both sides of an educational issue. I'm very...
there you go. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the wrong camera. Okay.
That's okay.
I'm looking forward to continuing my time on the board because we've been taught in my family to pay forward. So there's a lot of political interest in our family and trying to get on boards and offer what expertise we might have that might improve or move forward, in my case, the Dracut school system. My father, myself, my siblings, my children, my grandchildren. I have one last grandchild at the high school, and so we have been very successful in the Dracut school system. We've had all individuals from the cream of the crop down to special ed. So I have a wide array of information regarding that, and having been in pretty much every position in the school system, I have a background that I'm hoping I'll be able to bring to the school board and assist in keeping the school running and being successful.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Linda. Next up, Rob Shepard.
Hi. Which camera do you guys want me to check?
Straight ahead.
All right. Hi, I'm Rob Shepard, running for Dracut School Committee. I grew up in this town. I went to Dracut High School and then decided to have my family here. I have a little one that is going to be attending Campbell School, and I have another one that will be attending the new Campbell School when that's built. So I have a lot vested in this. I care a lot about this town. I care a lot about the students. I understand what it's like sitting in those seats. I understand what it's like also to be, maybe not the most motivated student. I know what it takes to spark that interest. For me, it took until high school for really something to get started. I got it started actually in a drafting class. That's what got me interested in engineering. And then when I went on to Middlesex Community College, I majored in CAD technology and then moved on to UMass Lowell, got a bachelor's and a master's degree in civil engineering. And I'm hoping to, take a look at our technology, make sure that those high excelling students, they have the tools to take them on to a high school, to a college. And, we can't let those students just kind of be there and say, all right, they'll be fine. They'll do okay on their own. They'll make it. We don't have to worry too much. No, we need to give them the right tools and the right technology and inspire even them further than high school. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rob. And last but not least, Sarah Powling.
Hi, I'm Sarah Powling. Thanks for having me back. I was born in Lowell, at Lowell General Hospital, but I was raised in Dracut, lived in Dracut all my life. I'm a Dracut native. I currently live here with my husband, Joe, and my two sons, Joey and Jimmy. Joey's in the 3rd grade, Jimmy's in the 2nd grade at the Greenmont Ave School, where we love it there. I attended the Brookside when it was called the Dracut Middle School under the direction of Dr. Truvel. I went to the Englesby Junior High, back when it was the junior high, and then I graduated from DHS in 2003. I got my bachelor's from UMass Lowell in psychology, and I got my master's in social work from Boston University. I went on to become an outpatient clinician specializing with children in downtown Lowell. Then I took a pause on my career when we had kids, so I've been home with the kids ever since. But using that background, that mental health background, combining that with these last 2 years that the entire world has been through, it's been eye-opening to me, and I am looking to push the Dracut schools forward, try to get them out of this rut that every school system has been in because of these last 2 years. I think it's really important that we focus on mental health services, the addition of adjustment counselors, and also to focus on bridging the gaps that have been made the academic gaps that have been made due to these last couple of years. I'm pushing for hiring of more bodies in the school, paras, tutors, extra people that can help break the students into groups and try and catch them all up and get them all back on the same page. I'm also a huge proponent of parental choice, and I feel that parents desperately need a voice on this board, and I am hoping to bring that to you. And I'm also, along those lines, I would like to strengthen the communication from the top on down to the bottom. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So John, do you want to start us off with the questions, or do you want me to start off?
Well, go right ahead. You
All right,
put
so-
this thing together pretty well. Well,
Okay.
let's just jump in. We're going to go back and forth. What we want to do is try to put a subject out there, give you a little question to get it started, and then have those conversations between yourselves. It's not about Gordy and I. We're just going to try to keep you motivated to talk about different issues.
All right, so I'm going to start off, and I'm going to start with Dr. Truvel again. What do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities?
I I see the board's role is to oversee what happens with the leadership and to make sure that it's in a positive direction and to make sure that it's addressing all of the issues that come to the forefront. Sometimes that needs to have a type of communication that fosters both sides. For example, parents who need to voice their opinions and understand that from the administration side, sometimes those answers aren't quite quick enough in their opinion, but there's a lot of other agendas that have to be taken into effect and situated before we can actually give a definitive answer for the issues that they might have. So that role to oversee all of that, and then to also improve the academics and also improve the different types of educational viewpoints. For example, special ed, ELL, the AP courses and the higher agendas, getting ready for college and actually taking college courses. So I think each of those individual areas needs to have a jump start maybe to increase it and to make it more viable and identify more of the students who kind of fall into those groupings and help them so that they can move forward and improve their potential from where they are.
Okay, great. Rob, same question to you. What do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities?
I would definitely say collaboration within your community. DESE sets the framework, and we actually currently have a policy that states, I believe it's a promise to the people, and it states that we do understand that the state is responsible for providing public education, but it's up to the community, the local community, that decides on what that is, what gets taught to the students. And that's why we vote for school committee members. That's why we're here. That's why we're here tonight, to let people know, hey, we have a bigger role than you may think that we have in what gets taught in our schools. Now, collaboration is a big thing because we also have the finance. We hear a lot of static from some of the current people that are running that say, oh, there's not enough funding, we don't have enough. That's why things don't get done. Well, okay, but what have you done to try to get things changed? Have you worked with our finance committee? Have you worked with the selectmen? And it was said to me that everything gets brought to the town to vote, and the town just votes it down. There's nothing that gets changed because the town votes it down. Well, that's the town's job to understand, the voters, they get to choose what happens. But are you providing enough information to the voters that understand what's happening? That's the key there, and that's why I say community is a big part of it. If you want something to get done in the community, you have to be a part of the community.
Good point.
Sarah, how do you feel about that?
So I agree a lot with what Rob just said as far as the collaboration goes, but I think the first and foremost, the job of the school committee members is to represent their community. And I feel that has to be on your mind the entire time that you're making these decisions. And then the main roles of the school committee members is, like was mentioned, the budget and the policy. I feel like pretty much anybody knows how to budget, to balance a budget. That's very important, but I feel like, that's more like standard and concrete, and there's exact answers. My issue is the policy. That is what has to come from the people that you represent. And the policy decisions have to be, again, back to the collaboration that Rob just said, there has to be the back and forth between the community and all of the other groups in town, the selectmen, everybody. There has to be this representation and this back and forth to determine the appropriate policy for this town, not for the state of Massachusetts, not for the country, this town of Dracut. This town of Dracut is very unique, and it's different from right next door, it's different from Lowell. So we have to have people that can differentiate, that can separate the different values of certain towns, and know what's unique to your own and represent it accurately. And then, of course, also to oversee the superintendent is also another job, not just to agree with everything that he says, but to ask questions and dive deeper into his reasonings,
So
etc.
there's a couple of things that you was said here over the last couple of seconds from all three of you. Very good answers. But one thing that we talked about is DESE. And I think there's a real misconception of people thinking that DESE has control over everything. And DESE is, what is DESE? Why don't we just come out and say what DESE is? It's the Department of Education. It's an acronym for what, Linda?
Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Okay, so DESE doesn't promulgate what you're going to teach at the ground level, do they?
They have some standards
Right.
that they want to see implemented. And again, according to your particular district, how you take these standards and put them into a curriculum
It's up to you.
Is pretty much.
Yeah.
But I think that some of their standards are pretty good. So
Yeah.
it would do us well to take those standards and recreate them into a unique and a deep design of what we expect from our students for them to be successful. So if we take just bits and pieces of it, that might not work. I think you need to take the whole of what they're offering, see what your students need, because students need, as Sarah said, Lowell is so different. Their students need an entirely different approach to education in some instances. And actually, you know, our district does too. So I think that we need to follow those, but within our own framework.
So Sarah, every community is different, as Linda pointed out, when you did also with Lowell. So what of DESE do you believe is overstated by some of the current members of the board of the school board?
Well, I think I agree. There's a lot of DESE framework and rules that should be.
Somebody has to give direction.
Right. I think the issue is that there are some things, for example, the MCAS test that the elementary kids are taking this week. It's, in my opinion, absolutely foolish, given the last 2 years, that we are stressing third graders out and 10th graders out who have to pass it in order to graduate, and everyone in between. It's crazy to me that we have had to stress about this all year long. So that is a guideline from DESE that I don't agree with, that I know many people don't agree with. And so for something like that, there's no way around it. You have to follow the rules, but this is where I'm looking for pushback. Like if we all just sit there and take it forever and ever, about like we had to do with the masks, like we had to do with the distancing, all of that stuff. If we just keep sitting there and saying, okay, DESE said, like pretty soon, all of these little ways that we do have to make it our own town are going to be gone too. And so I think that people in positions of power need to push back against DESE for certain things, like the MCAS, for example.
Rob, what do you have to say about that too?
You know, I'd like to actually give credit to the current board.
Mm-hmm.
They sent a letter in opposition to the MCAS.
But it was our idea.
To the what? To the MCAS?
About the MCAS.
Okay.
It did. It was, you know, it was a step in the right direction, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Those type of actions. You know, it's down to what the local school district believes is best for their community.
And in this case, you know, we had some concerns about the MCAS,
Right.
that students wouldn't be ready to take it and do well on it. I mean, they're ready to take it, but to do well is another whole story. So
Exactly.
that bothered us enough that we took it upon ourselves to send a letter to them and saying how we're not in agreement with it. So.
Right. Well, that's a good thing for you to push back, as we all have said, and it's not my show. Like I said, it's about you guys. DESE is the overriding agency that gives you ideas and direction as to where the state wants to go, but the local community should have more control. You all agree with that?
Yeah. We all agree on something there.
Right, of course.
Okay, Rob, I think this question is going to be right in your wheelhouse because you
boy.
mentioned it in your opening statement. What is your vision for education in the community, especially when it comes to technology?
Well, you know, I have a big problem with implementing it too young. I have a big problem with, you know, leaning too heavily on technology for young kids. Kids have to learn with their hands, but you know, and building things together. You know, they already have screens at home. There's a lot of technology already implemented at home. You know, as you get kind of older, as you get probably, 5th and 6th grade, all right, I could see a little bit more of implementation of the technology. But, I've heard that even kindergartners and first graders are using iReady and they're using tablets. There's really no need for that. They should be doing something a little bit more constructive, in my opinion. That's probably something that I would change within the technology. Now, as far as you go a little bit higher up, I want to make sure that, we have, what's the program, the Project Leading the Way. I want to make sure that those computers are up to date. I want to make sure that they have, actually, not even just Project Leading the Way, also drafting. This is something that you could implement where you have a drafting class where the kids can go on the computer, create, say a birdhouse, right? Well, then you could go over and have them build it. They could actually construct it with their hands. That is a different type of curriculum and a different type of approach that says, hey, you've now built this, you've designed it and built this, and this is your project, this is your product that you made. It's just the limits, there's no limits to what you can do with technology and implementing engineering.
Wow, great answer. Sarah, now
What he said, no, I'm just kidding.
Rob seems to think that he wants to take the technology a little bit more away from the younger kids and focus it more in the upper levels of high school, middle school. What's your thoughts?
I actually completely agree with that. Again, not to constantly keep going back to COVID, but I think we have to remember that COVID has completely changed everybody these last 2 years. And, just with the kids having to, all kids, but especially elementary kids, having to take their elementary school classes, my first grader at the time, having to take his first grade classes on Zoom. Like, just, not even just the annoyance of that, but the stress of like, Mom, I can't log in. Mom, it's glitching. Mom, I can't hear my teacher. Mom, I'm missing the story. Like, he's in first grade. He should be going to school, sitting on a rug, eating goldfish, and listening to a story. He shouldn't have to be plugging in his computer, blah, 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 trying to figure out a password, all of that. So I think, last year, I think just totally tarnished my view of technology in the schools for the younger kids, kind of exactly what he was saying. Not that we're against it. Obviously, my kids have tablets. Like, I'm a regular mom that probably lets her kids use tablets too much and all of that stuff. But I think in school, especially after these last 2 years, in school has to be hands-on. They have to be in groups. They have to be playing. They have to be learning how to share. They have to be learning how to talk to each other. They have to be learning how to look at each other when they talk. Things like this that you can't get from a computer screen. So I am in favor of it, like Rob said, for the older grades, but definitely on the elementary level, I would want to limit it.
Okay. Dr. Truville, what are your thoughts?
Well, in most of the schools, the elementary students might get computers once a week. They come to us already prepared, most of them. They already have their computers at home. They have their laptops at home. They have a variety of pieces that they work with on games and whatever. So they're pretty advanced in their own right for their level. So when they come to us, our job would be to take the skills that they have and refine them and channel them so that they can take what they know and apply it to something a little higher on their skill level. And so, unfortunately, I'm not against having the younger students do it because it's not all day and it's once a week maybe. But during that once a week, though, they can actually teach them and give them a topic that they can work on at their leisure, at their home, without stress and without anything else. And it also helps in certain subject areas that they might be able to do a project. There are some pretty advanced kids in first, second, third grade, and they might want to do a project. I've had children ask me if they could do it on their computer, and I would say to myself, yes, their handwriting's a little bit difficult to read. That would be fine, darling. And so, and then they feel, when they get to school, they feel pretty important when they hand to you something that is very legible and you can read it. And actually, when they present it in the classroom, they can read it. Because sometimes they can't read their own handwriting. And so we have to work with that. But again, I'm not adverse to young students taking computers in the school. Sarah has a point about the Zoom when they had to just do that, because a couple of my grandchildren were on it, and for anybody that's third grade and up, that was pretty good. The kindergartner, though, kept, get up out of his seat, had to go get a drink, had to get up. So it doesn't always work for real young students, but for those that have come to school with some skill level, I believe that we could take that skill level and move it toward a subject area and improve their self-worth in that area.
Great.
So through this discussion, the budget came up and how we communicate the budget. We all know that the budget is a set amount that's raised from different sources, right? The state gives us some money, and we get money for education, and we get money from the taxpayers, and it all comes from taxpayers at some level, right? So what can the town and the school committee do better that we're not currently doing to make people or have people get more involved in the budget process? There are budget hearings during the year, and I'm sure if you've attended them at the school committee, there's not many people that go. So what can the school committee do, or in your vision could do, to grab more people to get involved in that process? Why don't you open that up, Sarah?
That's a great question. I think parents obviously are the ones that seemingly are more invested in the schools right now because they have kids in there, and like everything, adding something else to a parent's plate on top of soccer and gymnastics and library and this appointment and that appointment, it's very hard for anybody to fit in another meeting or fit in more time to try to think and learn something. So I don't blame people at all for not being able to attend. I feel for you, I get it. And so I think one way to get people more involved is as a school committee member to reach out to the people yourself. And maybe they can't make that meeting, but maybe you can, send out an email or a Facebook post or snail mail, anything to make people aware that, hey, I'm going to be available at this point, or I'm available through email, or this is what's happening. The budget meeting is next week. We'd love you to attend. If you can't, what are some things that are important to you? What are some things that you would like me to mention? And I think, again, just the communication, because I get it. Parents just can't, and not even just parents, but other people just can't attend, meeting after meeting. We've gone to every single school committee meeting since August, and it's a lot. It's a lot to get a babysitter every couple weeks. But if we could have had this, back and forth communication, like about this budget issue, if you can have that, then you can represent the people, even if they're not there.
So Rob, we have a communication tool in the town, Reverse 911, right? We use that to inform people, right? And you have Connect Ed, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken, right? So Connect Ed gives you the ability, the schools, to reach out to parents. Do they use it at all during the budgetary process to invite people to come and look at what the schools are spending on the budget and where it's going?
I'm not aware of that, but I do know that our town does have e-alerts, right, where we can sign up for, say, you want the finance committee or you want the selectmen meetings. I don't think the school committee is listed on that e-alerts, actually. And so that could be definitely a start if that's not there. And then on top of that, I went to the public hearing for the finance committee. It was just me and Ann Vandal and the committee. That's an eye opener. That was an opportunity, and I was able to ask questions, and it was great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the town be able to be more aware of stuff like that. They do put it out in the paper. It is available. Those are great opportunities to bounce things back and forth with those committee members who they know the budget in and out, and they know the right questions to ask. And just by you going up there and putting a bug in their ear with something that they'll say, oh, hey, and then it'll spark a huge conversation. Another thing that you could do is our school committee does a budget public hearing, but there's no line items. The line items don't have descriptions. So you don't really know exactly what those line items entail unless you ask the question. Now, there was probably, 14 pages of that budget, and each page probably had about, I'll say 25, give or take. Is there any chance we could have a glossary for those line items to understand what's in the budget, and that could probably spark some more questions?
What's your feeling, Linda? You're on the board, you've sat there, and you've been in the system for a number of years. So.
Yeah, and of course, on the positive for me, but the negative for others, I know what all those lines mean.
Right.
But the public does not
Right.
know what all those lines mean. Maybe we can get into a discussion about maybe sending out a survey of exactly, for example, you just mentioned that right now, a glossary of what each line may, so maybe we could send out a survey asking, what is it about the budget that you would like to know about? And that would be one thing, so we could prepare that kind of thing. And maybe even, in addition to the survey, maybe even look at the times that we hold these budget meetings. During the week might be hard for parents. Maybe a Saturday morning might be a little bit easier for them. And if you don't get a lot of people that attend then, well, now you have to really look, where is the interest? Where is the interest? People like that are running for the board, myself, we have a vested interest because we have children and grandchildren in the system still. So for us to take our information and delve it out to the community, we would need to know exactly what it is you want to know. And so once they tell us that, then we can actually get into even subcommittees might be helpful on the board, and we could get things prepared for the public, so that they would know.
So this budgetary thing is a huge thing, of course, because when you go to town meeting, everybody's there just to get that budget passed and not interested in really hearing it. People get bored quickly with watching and talking about the figures. So I think that, Linda, you've struck a good point when you said that maybe a Saturday, a workshop type thing where you may get a half a dozen parents to come, right? And Rob, you mentioned earlier about the fact that the town votes for overrides. Now, you're going to see in the town that they will not vote for overrides for operational expenses. They want people to work within their budget. A lot of people think that they're getting enough money. And there's never enough money, right? Because we can always do better with money. So how would you approach it if you, when you get into if you are fortunate enough to win, you get on the board, what would you do that's different now and to get people more involved in the process?
To get people more involved in the process? Yeah. You know, there's a Duncan's meeting actually tomorrow that Renee and Rebecca Duda, Dr. Duda, are hosting. You know, that's a start. That's getting an opportunity to sit down, you know, with just 2 school committee members and understanding what's happening and have an open dialogue or conversation.
Where's that, by the way?
I believe it's the one on
Lakeview Avenue, I think.
Is it the Lakeview Avenue one?
What time?
4:30 or 4 o'clock. Yeah,
It's on Rebecca Duda's Facebook page.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
probably Renee.
I can share. I'll share it with you later,
Sure.
and you can post it.
There were 2 on Lakeview Avenue, the one near St. Mary Magdalene. I mean, no, St. Margaret DeVille, the one near that one.
I'll shoot the message out.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So that's a start, which is a good start, and we kind of feel as though we've been up there at our community inputs asking for transparency and asking for opportunities for discussion that is not just one way. That's how you start conversation, is a 2-way lines of communication. And that's actually in our policy within the school committee to promote a form of 2-way communication.
So there was a lot of problems over the summer and during COVID with the masking. And that got you into the race, right? I think that got you into the race.
That's what motivated
being
me.
upset about the masking and what have you. And without talking specifically about the masking, but talking about communications, because we've heard that word a couple times during this conversation. How would you approach having parents when they come and approach the school committee? How would you feel about that? And what would you do differently that's currently not being done?
I would welcome parents coming to community input. Since we've been going since August, it's basically just us. Like, our group has been pretty much the only consistent group to show up every single meeting. There are other parents that come, you know, every now and then, but and one of the frustrations that we've had is that we're coming every week saying all of these concerns, saying all of these things, and we get a thank you, next up, and because they're not allowed to respond back to us. And so it's been mentioned before, but I think suspending the rules during school committee meetings, not necessarily every single meeting, but especially when you have a group of people or, you know, a large number of people or consistent concerns over and over again, I think suspending the rules during community input and allowing the back and forth communication would be a perfect opportunity. Then you don't have to then you don't have to figure out what Dunkin's to go to. Like, you just do it right there at the meeting, and it can be back and forth. And then, you know, maybe that would motivate more people to be involved as well, because I know our group started, you know, the first meeting there were like 40 or 50 of us. Then the next meeting there were like 20 of us, and it got lower and lower each time till like the core, like 6 or whatever. But people were frustrated because they got up there and poured their hearts out and they got no response.
Linda, you've been on the other side of that frustration where you sit there and you know the rules, you can't go back, but you try to find maybe later on in the meeting to say something about it. What do you think about what Sarah just
Well,
had to
I've
say?
had to bite my tongue a few times because there were a couple of times that I really would have liked to have spoken, because it would have brought to light pretty much the answers that people were looking for.
And
But-
maybe eliminate some frustration.
Yes, absolutely. I think school committee meeting, because of the length of time and late at night, I think if we were to do this, we might choose a different time. Offer it and choose a different time that we can fully give the answers and not have to kind of rush through because it's now 10 o'clock and we still have 10 more people to come up and speak. But if we had it on a different time, not within a school committee meeting, I think we might have some progress with that. So that's another thing we can look at and discuss and see what we can come up with.
How about you, Rob?
I think you both kind of hit the nail on the head.
How about maybe some kind of listening tour to each school? Just have it within the school where the school committee can have have a meeting for listening to parents and giving and taking. Do it in each school maybe once a year. What do you think of something like that?
Yes. I'd like to see something like
Yeah.
that. That'd be really interesting. You could probably do it on, what's it? You know, when parent-teacher conferences. You know, have a school committee member available there at the school for a conversation.
I'll have the whole school board there.
Yeah.
And have a public hearing where people can come up and, you know, give their gripes or patches on the back. Because there's a lot to be patted.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to pat schools on the backs. There's a
Act-
lot of people
actually,
that do a
the-
lot of good
The
things.
last couple of meetings, members have gotten up to say positive things.
Yeah.
So that,
I mean-
that kind of feels good.
You know, our show, we always tend to have controversial things that come out, right? And it's just because information is so weak on some of the stuff that's one-sided, right? So people tend to come to a show like this looking for the controversy, right? But there are a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of good teachers, there's a lot of good administrators, and there's, like in everything else, there's bad, right? So maybe that's something that might be a good proposal going forward.
That might work, and give each individual parents in each individual school the opportunity
Correct.
to be able to say what they need to say and actually get a response.
See what a round table conversation does? Well done.
This is what it does. Exactly.
Only we
Exactly.
did this just 7 months ago.
All right, Dr. Truble, back to you.
Yes.
So the school recently got some good news.
Yes, it did.
The school committee has approved a historic $39.1 million working budget, right?
Yeah.
For 2023, and that's a $4.4 million increase.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow the district to add 27 positions, right?
Correct?
And some positions will also be part-time, but there's 23 full-time positions, right?
Yes.
So do you agree with how that money was allocated? And if so, why or why not?
Well, I have to say I do agree with it in this sense. Special needs was our real issue that we had to focus in on. We needed more professionals to deal with the identification of certain types of special needs students. So one of those is a behaviorist. Another one is somebody that's in charge of putting the meetings together to free up the people that should be doing the teaching of it. And so the amount of people that we have slated for special needs has increased tremendously. And that is a very important thing, because with budget cuts, as you know, sometimes your classes become a little larger until you get more money, and sometimes you might put together students who have the same disabilities, and so some of them might, though, need to be separated a bit and have their own program. So now we'll be able to do that. Now with that money we've invested in there, we'll be able to do that. And then we've also added a vice principal to help with discipline, because that had become an issue. The mental health piece of the special needs is also, and the behaviorists can sort of focus in on that as well. So, when we think of 10 years ago, we had one person like that for the whole district. And now we have, I would say, a dozen after this specific hiring. So that's a big difference. And so now we can allocate them into the positions that will benefit most. So
Is there any money that got allocated that you think should have been maybe allocated somewhere else?
well, probably at this point, maybe not, because it hinged on paraprofessionals, it hinged on other aspects of staffing. So every specific core area had some hiring in that. So I think that money was delved out kind of where it was supposed to be. Now, would we like to even bring class size down further?
Right.
Absolutely. So that might be the next issue we look at. And because now these hirings are permanent now. They're not going to go away after this money that we just got goes away. These people will stay on. So now we know where we are next year. So now we can look at the budget that will be coming up after the next one, and we'll be able to decide, okay, now where is it going? Here's where it went. Okay, that's good, but now where else is it going? And so that forces us to identify other areas that need to have that help.
Right. Great. Rob, your thoughts on the budget and how it was spent to have these 27 new teachers?
Anytime that we can add more staff in places that are in need is a great thing. I brought up at one of the meetings that I was wondering if we could have, like an Italian teacher instead of Spanish. That was one of the things. And I said, what's our roster? What's our current roster that we have for those teachers? Well, I was told that it's because we need fluency. Our high school, we won't be able to achieve someone that can be fluent in that language. My senior year, I had the option of taking Spanish 4 again, not again, but Spanish 4 or Italian. I'm a senior. I'm sorry, foreign language is not my specialty. I took Italian. I wanted to learn something new, something different my senior year. That's why I took it, and I had a blast. I actually were in a class with kids that were at all different levels of expertise. I hadn't been in the classes with them because they were a lot higher up than I was in those classes, but they all wanted to take Italian. They wanted to learn something new. That's why I mentioned that. It wasn't about fluency. It was about giving the kids something different. And so I would probably, that list that came out, I'd be curious if, when it came out and what today as far as our roster goes and possible teachers leaving, possible teachers, is that roster going to stay the same? That's what I'd be curious if there's an update on that coming too. But as far as operational budget costs, we had a little over $3.1 million in this funding. Where could it have gone? Well, let's see what we need in-house. What needs to be repaired? We operated last year with the staff that we had. Now, again, we had great additions with the special education. I have heard lots of communication that we needed assistance there. We have an IEP chair, we have behaviorists, we have a bunch of paraprofessionals that are coming on. That's because we need them. Now, I'm not saying that we should take them away when I say, we should look at where we have to fix things within our schools as far as, do we all have charges for our Chromebooks? That's one thing that I'm curious about too. But I'm happy with what they did, but I'd like to revisit it again and not just put our stamp on it and walk away from it.
Okay, Sarah, what are your thoughts on the hiring of the teachers?
Excuse me. I don't doubt that a lot of time and effort and meticulous planning went into picking these 27 positions. However, the first thing I noticed, and I don't mean to sound ungrateful because all of these positions are hugely necessary, they're valuable, but a group of us has been coming up to every school committee meeting, every single school committee meeting since August, pleading with people to address the mental health issues that were already present in the schools and that have extremely intensified since these last 2 years. And there was not one adjustment counselor in those 27 positions, not one. Now, there was a behaviorist, that's great, but the behaviorist is for all 4 elementary schools. So of course that behaviorist will make a huge difference and lessen the burden slightly, but all I can think of is imagine what could have happened if automatically, like the top 6 positions were automatically adjustment counselors, and we added 1 new adjustment counselor to every single school, and then we added positions after that. Because again, all of these positions are extremely valuable. I'm not knocking anyone's role, but it's almost like, we added 1 here and 1 there and 1 here, and like for example, we added 2 classroom teachers, 2 full-time classroom teachers. That's great. That's amazing. But that's going to help 1 grade at 1 school to have a few less kids in their class. Whereas if you could have added adjustment counselors, they could have done group work, they could have done something to bridge these, mental health and, which would relate to, in turn, help the academic gaps. Like they could start running groups, and their positions would be brand new, so they could take on 20 different groups with 5 kids in each group for a couple months, in the school year, and you're reaching 100 people, in a couple months, and then a couple months later you're reaching another 100 people. You're reaching half the school by the time the year's over. So I don't doubt that a lot of planning went into these positions, but again, I wish the community members could have been heard about what their, huge priority was, which I think everyone who's been in a school at all recently can agree is mental health. It all relates to mental health, social skills, behavioral skills, all of that. It all relates to mental health.
You bring up a good point, and John, we broke this story last week on our show about the increased violence in the schools. I think a young man broke his leg, or something happened with his leg. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Our Cub reporter had a very controversial. We'll talk about that with him after.
But I just wanted to bring up: do you think that's
good
because of that mental health issue, and do you think the school handled that correctly? And what other things you think they can do to help mitigate all the violence that we're seeing in the schools?
I mean, I think it's just a domino effect. I think the violence has always been there. It's always been, an issue. Also, this, back when we went to school, kids would get in a fight. They'd, punch each other, whatever. Someone, the whatever, strong teacher happened to be in the hall would walk in, break it up. This one would go to in-house, this one would get suspended. We'd move on. The next day would be fine.
But we know reality is not that way today. Everybody's suing everybody.
Well, exactly. Now, the teachers, unless you're CPI certified, you can't even put your hands on the kid. So it's like, I don't know the specifics at all about this particular case, but it's like, if kids are fighting, I was told that people just had to stand there and watch and say, "Stop it! Don't do that!" Like, that's insane. Like I think everyone needs to be, or many people need to be this CPI certified, which allows you to intervene and restrain the kids and at least put your hands on them. Like now you're not even allowed to touch them. I mean, you have to watch them beat the crap out of somebody. This is a rule that doesn't make sense, that needs to be addressed.
Linda, your thoughts on the violence that we've seen?
Well, when we have an officer on site, that is definitely very helpful. But what happens is by the time you get the officer down to where the fight is, it's either progressed to a certain point or they've stopped it themselves. I think that students of this caliber that are easily eruptible need to be able to have a person in that building, no matter where they are, that's available for them when they can sense that they're starting, and you can sense it on any student when they're starting to get riled up. You can see it. You can see their body language change. And so a good person in that position would be able to decipher, oh my goodness, this is going to happen soon. And of course, the loud yelling and screaming that's going to take place prior to the physical piece is always there.
The smoke is coming out of the volcano, and you can recognize that.
You can recognize it right away. So, and the professionals that are around can recognize that. Now, what's happening is we're trying to get these professionals to walk the halls, to be available when students are in the halls and they're going to their classrooms. Mm-hmm. So that's one way we're hoping to kind of limit some of what's going on. The junior high is very good about that. There are always people in the hallways to watch that. So even though they do have some disruptible students, they've managed to catch some of them and ahead of time before they actually erupt and put a stop to it. The high school's a different venture now. It's huge, so one or two people can't always be at the right spot. And so that's something we have to work on because we can't consistently have these fights that take place in the school. Do we address them immediately? Immediately. We don't let them, hopefully, in my opinion, what's been happening is not lasting till the next day or the next day or the next day. They try to address it right away and put an end to it. But that, again, requires you to have some professional who is able to decipher the thinking process of those that are in the middle of a battle that doesn't go away overnight, because the words will continue, which will now incite something else. So it's an ongoing problem, as Sarah said. It's an ongoing problem. And in today's world, as you referred to before, today's world is so different than my world going through Dracut schools, or as a young teacher in the school. We didn't have any of this. So now it's all coming in, and now you have to take a different approach. You can't teach children the same way that you used to. You know, when I taught, you looked at them and they listened.
Right.
Not today.
And
Rob, I
different
want to give
home
you a chance
atmosphere.
to jump in on this. The
So,
violence we're seeing.
you know, the violence we're seeing, you know, kids are frustrated. Kids have not really had a normal school year for a while. I know the audience hears us say that a lot, but it's true. You know, and it's resonating within the schools. What the schools are feeling is what the kids are feeling at home as well, and what they're dealing with, you know, outside of school. Now, we have an in-house suspension teacher on the list. You know, are now kids that are associated that end up having difficulties just going to be sent down to a room, and now they're just doing classwork. You know, did that change anything? No. They're just now in a classroom just doing busy work, or not busy work, but well, sometimes they are actually. Being from the high school, I remember some kids saying, you know, at least just give me a broom and let me do something busy. Let me do something with my hands. Let me do something that's meaningful. And because sometimes someone that's in that position, that's that frustrated, schoolwork's not going to help solve things. I'd like to see some sort of community involvement, some sort of, you know, let's see what our officers in town know for programs, something that could help. And when I say programs, I mean something that gives them somebody to talk to. Give them somebody different than a teacher. Give them somebody different than parents at home. They need something different, and let's hope to bring that.
Quick couple of, because we have a couple of minutes left. We have about 5 minutes left, and I do have a couple more subjects I want to shorten the answers a little bit if we can, and hopefully the host will shorten our giving the questions. But how do you feel about fees? Let's start with you, Sarah.
I think we should do our very best to eliminate them. I'm happy that the performing arts fees were eliminated. Hopefully that will build up the program. The bus fees have been eliminated next year. I would love to see the athletic fees be completely eliminated.
Linda?
I believe in them if you need them to continue a program. Right. As luckily what's happened, we've been able to cancel the fees on a couple of programs. But rather than not have the program, I think that you know, fees are okay while you're working on how to give back those fees or stop those fees.
It's been said that almost 60% of the students in I've seen it on social media, are in some sort of subsidies for these fees. So 40% are paying? Rob, what do you have to say?
40% are paying. Wow. I'll say this. You know, my senior year, I had the opportunity to do a sport, and at the time it was club lacrosse. But you had to pay probably, I think it was over $500 to play at the time because it was a club. I didn't do that. I did spring track and field. I would have loved to have done lacrosse. All my brothers ended up doing lacrosse. So I lost out on that experience of something that I wanted to do. Town needs to figure out what amenities we want to provide our kids, and whether it's busing is free or whether it's sports are free. You know, as a town, we need to figure that out. School
choice, Linda. How do you feel about school choice?
I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we do have it here in Dracut. You have to monitor it very closely because many parents are taking their students from an environment in which they don't feel it's productive, and they want to bring it into an environment that's a little less hostile and probably more forward-going. So I believe in school choice in that framework, and it also helps us financially as well. So it serves a dual purpose. It helps parents to bring their children into an environment that's more conducive to their learning, and helps us financially.
Rob?
School choice sounds a lot like parental choice to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a parent understands their child and understands, you know, what would best suit them and for them to grow as a person. I'm in favor.
Susan? Sarah?
I was going to say the same thing.
Sarah.
Parental choice.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of parental choice. School choice, same thing.
How about the teaching of the basics, arithmetic, math, arithmetic, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? When I was a kid, that was the focus, right? We've kind of gotten away from some of that now, and we're teaching to the MCAS. But real quickly, is civics and history a main subject in school today, or should it be more accentuated? Sarah?
I think it's important. I mean, with history, you get into all these gray areas of like, how are they teaching the history? I think it's very important. I think we should all have an education regarding history, but that's where the transparency of the curriculum, I think, is important.
Rob?
Yeah, spot on. Transparency is the key when it comes to what's kind of been happening down the road here, and what a lot of people are fearing, and what you hear on social media. You know, what is accurate to history is important, and on top of it, what can students comprehend as well is equally as important.
Linda?
I believe in both civics and history as being a main topic. With civics, you learn how your government and your country runs. I mean, that's very important, and too many people do not know about that. I mean, new candidates do, obviously, because they have a vision for themselves. History, your country is based on history.
Exactly.
Your whole life is based on history. And whether you agree with the past history or not, it's still history.
Are we teaching cursive in school today, Rob? Do you know?
No,
We're not?
and we should be.
Oh, God. yes.
Oh my
Supposed
gosh,
to be, yeah.
I have.
You cannot read the original Constitution
Yep.
or the
Yep.
the Declaration of Independence because it's handwritten
Yeah.
in cursive.
Yeah, and you know,
you agree with that?
it gives children a good feeling about themselves when they produce this beautifully written paper that everybody is claiming. Wow, that's a nice piece of work. It's just
Rob,
it's
do you
good for
teach your children cursive? Are they older
She's a
than-
little too young right
Okay.
now, but her letters are a little spaced out right now. But you know, let's replace some of those technology classes with a cursive class at the elementary.
Sarah?
My nephew just got his learner's permit and didn't know how to sign his name. So he had never once
Yeah.
Do we
learned
pledge
cursive.
allegiance to the flag today
Yes,
we
in,
do.
in our
Yes.
schools?
Yep.
Thank goodness for that.
Yep.
Thank goodness for that.
Yep.
Well, we're come to the end of this whole, believe it or not, a whole hour has gone by with us having a great discussion. This has been awesome, really.
You guys have been all civil, so
I mean,
we
it's
we
awesome.
appreciate
We
that.
kind of
It's
like each
really-
other. Two
Yeah.
former
Yeah.
students. I have to be careful.
Linda, there's not many people that I know that don't like Linda Trudeau. So I haven't met anybody that doesn't like Linda Trudeau.
Well,
but
they're
that's
out there, I'm
okay.
sure.
But I'm sure they are too,
They're not
because
here.
we all have our nemesis. So let's start with you, Sarah, and giving a closing statement to the public. And May 7th is coming up pretty quick, and you won't have this opportunity again to ask.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching. Saturday, May 7th at the junior high. I humbly ask for your vote. I will give this town, the parents and the children of this town, the voice that they deserve on that school committee board.
Rob?
May 7th, I'm very excited about because, this has been a great road for me. This had, reaching family and friends and getting to, hear what they want to see where our town go. And that's what I'm all about here is, our community. And I'm very excited to see, the future of Dracut.
Linda, you have the last word.
Oh my goodness. I am extremely excited to be a candidate for a regular school committee. Being appointed by the selectmen, I was more than pleased with that. Being in the school system was my life. And so, I was a student, I was a teacher, an administrator, and so my whole life is around this school system that I love dearly. And so I hope that you will consider voting for me. Hopefully I have enough background and expertise that I'll be able to keep our school system moving forward and helping all of your children to achieve success in their endeavors.
Well, we want to thank our candidates for coming here tonight, and we thank the public for joining us and watching our show tonight, and particularly to provide this kind of a service. And once again, thank you, and good luck to all of you in the coming election. We'll be back in about 35, 40 seconds. We got a quick change out. We got to change our positions, and then we're going to throw some bombs. We'll be right back. We did it, Nate.
We're learning. We're learning.
We did it, Nate. We did it in 44 seconds. Nate gave us a lot of baloney about, well, you know, we're not learning our lessons because I stretched that out. Well, folks, you just saw a video of the Town Hall West crew, Joe DeRocco and Lucky Vizina, who were out yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, they were out yesterday. A little birdie called me on the phone, and I immediately, I was actually out having coffee with a good friend of mine, and we ended up going and we ended up getting some pictures of the Town Hall West, which has a grab or a hold on the political establishment here in Dracut. And they have two candidates that they're supporting, Matt Sheehan and Kopaczynski.
Yes.
Jen Kopaczynski. Now, unfortunately, Jen has not responded. She's refused to come on our show. All right. The other candidates
surprise
did.
you?
No, it doesn't. And Matt Sheehan didn't come on our show because obviously he doesn't want to face the music. I mean, he could sit here and he could have a conversation with us, and whatever comes out of the conversation, maybe lines of communications will come out, and maybe something good will come out of it. I don't think Matt is ever going to come on the show, which is fine with me. It just gives me the opportunity to throw more bombs at him, you know. And we have a little piece on my. Can you pull up that thing I posted this afternoon about Matt? Matt posted on his personal Facebook page some time ago a disparaging picture of a actual Lowell homeless person, and. You know, I'm just asking the question, should a person of this caliber be on your selectmen? Should that person be a member of the school committee out at Greater Lowell? Should that person be on the housing authority in Dracut, the one agency that's supposed to be trying to provide homes for people? This is a man who is on a million different committees and doesn't attend half the meetings. You remember Bruce Cody? Some time ago, we had a video of Bruce Cody from the what is it? Community preservation?
The land was it the land trust or
No,
was it
it was
community
community
preservation? Yeah.
And I mean, he is a member of that by virtue of his position on the housing authority, right? So Bruce was complaining that we can't get enough members to come to the meetings, and Matt Sheehan was one of them that. Out of 20 meetings, he missed like 18 of them.
You know, it's hard to serve as a vote as a warm body if you don't even show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you know, some
I can't
people.
get to my email. Sorry, John.
It's not on the email. Go
it's
on our
Facebook.
Facebook page.
Okay.
On our Facebook page. If you go to the Facebook page, you'll be able to bring it up, and we can click over to this. We can go on here. But the bottom line is that, you know, Matt is lucky, and Joe's. And the Janess, by the way. We can't leave the Janess out of this because the chairman of the board of selectmen, Allison Janess, she wants to say that, you know, she was going to change everything in Dracut. She's going to change Dracut politics. She wasn't going to be part of either group or any groups. She was just going to be for Dracut. And the minute she was about to be elected, she hooked right on with Town Hall West. And since then, she's been attached at the hip with Joe Dracut and Jesse Forcier. You can see the 3-2 vote split right down the line all the time. So now they're desperate because they're going to lose Jesse Forcier. He's moving out of town, he's building a house in Methuen, and he's gone. So once he's gone, there's an election, right? They got 2 candidates that they're supporting, and they're going against Tony Archinsky, who's a 9-year sitting incumbent who's done a tremendous job, in my opinion, and should be reelected. But they're going after him, and they have this Jen for Dracut, which is a copycat candidate of Allison Janess. She's the copycat candidate. Her husband, Janess's husband, Brian Janess, is acting as the campaign manager for Jen, and he's also acting as an advisor, I'm sure, and if not the campaign manager for Matt Sheehan. Matt Sheehan also has other hate people out there, like Kevin O'Brien. He's a hater extraordinaire who's out there trying to, throw all kinds of mud. But here's a woman that got elected saying she wasn't going to be part of all this, and her husband is the worst bomb tosser in the town of Dracut. So show us that little thing I put together, that little video I put together for
Nate,
Facebook
if you can
page.
bring up my screen here.
Here we go. There's music to it too, so come on now. Come on!
Technical difficulties.
Oh,
I could always sing a song, John.
it didn't come over?
The sound's not coming through. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Anyways, that's just to show you that whole thing with the homeless person this is a person who doesn't have compassion. He's making fun of a homeless person. Is that somebody you want on your school committee? Is that somebody you want on your housing authority? Is that somebody you want on the Board of Selectmen?
No.
So, hopefully...
We just got a message in our inbox from Facebook, real quick, from a Suzanne Merrill.
Yep.
She said, "Good evening, my name is Suzanne. I'm a parent of a child in the Dracut school system. I think it would be beneficial to hear from me. I'd be happy to come on the show and welcome any of the other candidates to come on for a roundtable discussion."
Yeah, well, we've got the election's coming up, and we've got a full slate right now. We'll see what we can do with that. But let's talk about the polling places.
Oh, John, you know what? You had a great assignment for me to locate the polling places.
Right.
And this is one assignment where, honestly, I'm not too upset that I failed, because I think it shows the state that town politics are in regards to educating the public, right? We tried so very hard to find the polling locations in town for what precinct you are. And if Gordy has it up, we can show you the results we found, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, nothing. We found nothing.
Yeah, they haven't posted it yet, so...
I mean...
No, we found a map that shows you what precinct you're in, but it doesn't tell you your voting location, so...
Shouldn't that be something that's on the town's webpage?
I would think so.
While people are trying to go
I mean, John, I even found an article that said we still vote on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was from 2018.
Right.
Now, if somebody's quickly strolling through the page trying to find what day to vote on, what if they see that by accident? That was the #1 search result.
Number one search result was that. Can somebody please update the town webpage to show where the voting places are, as well as Gordy's having a little technology problem here tonight. He's usually very good at it. But I think it's because he's not fully recovered from his prostate surgery, And but anyways, so we couldn't find where the polling places are, but we do know.
Well, they have it from last year. They have it posted.
Right. So from last year, but that's COVID time, right? So there are 2 polling places at the senior center, and I believe that's polling precinct 1 and 6A, or 6 and 6A. So they're at the senior center, and all of the remaining polling places will be at the Richardson Middle School.
Yes.
Correct?
I believe so, yes.
So if you live in East Dracut, you used to go to Campbell School.
I used to love that. It's close to the house.
Right, and now you don't go there.
Yeah,
so
you remember last time my wife and I voted, we walked all the way across. You said, "Are you crazy? It's 4 miles." We had to walk. We walked 4 miles there and voted, walked home.
4 miles.
It's really a form of voter suppression. They don't want people getting out and voting. It's as simple as that.
As a casual observer, somebody could say, "Well, they don't want me to vote. Why can't I find out where I'm where I can vote?" Did you find anything on there for voter registration? When's the voter registration?
Yeah.
Is it now? I mean, is it over?
In the
They have a page. They have a link. You can register to vote.
Okay.
In the
So-
Facebook chat,
Yes.
Angel, one of our loyal followers,
Yes.
said that the Board of Selectmen announced them last night. So now, if you're not one of the 7 people who watched the Board of Directors meeting, how do you know where you go? How do you know where your polling place is?
Right.
That's terrible. It should be on the website.
There's many people that watch those Board of Selectmen meetings, and they don't want to watch paint dry for a long period of time, or grass grow.
Because they know they're not going to incorporate anything we say. So
I watched last night. Right, they're not going to incorporate anything.
Doesn't mean a hill of beans to
That's
them.
right, right. So last night they had a continuation of a public hearing for the Shoreline,
Oh yes. Yep.
which is a supposed club membership type restaurant. But that thing went on for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, right? And I can see the frustration in the neighborhood's comments because they're not getting anywhere here. Dracut, is pushing it off onto Tingsboro. Tingsboro's pushing it on to Dracut, and Dracut's saying to members of the audience, we're not, in an open mic, Joe DeRocco faux pas.
We're not going to implement.
We're not
anything he
incorporating
says.
anything.
Incorporate anything he says. And I mean, this is the kind of treatment you get, folks, when you go up to the Board of Selectmen. And as long as you're going to keep electing people like Joe DeRocco, or candidates that Joe DeRocco and Lucky Vizina and Allison Janess, they have found the power, and they don't want to let go of the power. They don't want to let go of the power, right? Now, what kind of power does Lucky have in town to do what? Like, what are some of the things you think he can exercise his power on?
Well, as the video's shown, he can use his construction vehicles and his work vehicles to go around promoting candidates.
Right? What do you-
Or if he needs something, some work done on the streets around his business, that seems to get done awfully quick.
Oh, yeah. Explain that to the viewers.
Yeah, so, John, you and I were on one of our little adventures around Dracut the other day, and we drove past Lucky Oil, and there were DPW trucks there, and it looked like they were paving some of the sidewalk that went into the driveway of Lucky Oil. Now, if that was any other business, I wonder how soon that would have been done.
Yeah.
So, and they did a pretty good job, too, so I will give them that. But.
Yeah, exactly. So, Gordy, what do you think about the candidates for selectmen? Who do you think is going to? What are the candidates?
Well, I think Tony's going to top the ticket. Obviously,
Right.
Great candidate. Obviously, we have Phil running. He's been 0 for 8, I think. Poor Phil. But we'll see what happens with him. We've got Matt Sheehan. We've got Kopinski that's running. So Kopinski, however you say her name. Apologize for pronouncing it wrong. But obviously, those are, as you see from the video, those are Lucky's candidates. So I'm sure they'll get the vote out for those two folks.
Yep.
So I think it's gonna be interesting. I don't know if a lot of people are gonna come out to vote again. As you know, we used to have, when I remember having over 5,000 people come out to vote. Now we see, you're lucky if you see 3,000.
What do you think of one of the most popular guys in town, Brian Janest? I say that with tongue in cheek, because he
gets 8,000 views on his TV show.
And how does he do that? How does he do that, Gordy?
there's
Come
a
on,
little-
tell us the secret, Gordy.
I think there's a little technology automation.
He
clicking
It's
thinks
here.
everybody's
going to be
stupid.
in the Nielsen ratings.
He thinks everybody's stupid. He thinks everybody really, that people actually watch his show, right? And watch what the diatribe that he puts out there.
But you remember what we did, right? So I
Yeah.
would go to one of our shows and beat him off by like 300 or 400. The next day I'd come in and he'd be up by 1,000. I'd go back in and raise us up by another 300 or 400.
Oh, shoot.
And it's a game. They play a game. We
Yeah.
don't normally do that, right?
Right,
But
right.
we did it with him because we were playing with him, and he's stupid enough to really
Right.
think that people really believe that he's like really that popular, You got candidates for Selectman Josh Taylor, who's out doing some work. You see his truck around.
Yep.
You see his trucks around.
His buses and smart cars
he
and all
is
that.
he is one guy that is trying to spur more people on to vote, right? And how's he doing that?
He's offering rides
Right.
to bring people to the polls. He bought the old Council of Aging buses. He's all over Facebook, posting the voting day, and he even has a website that I checked out where
What's
he
that
lists all the
website?
candidates and what they stand for.
What's that website? See if we can pull that up.
If you go on his page, it's probably, I think it's something like votedracut.com or something like that. We'll try to get it pulled up.
So Tony Archinsky is probably the prohibitive candidate, the prohibitive leader of this whole pack.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Sheehan, who's been beaten a couple of times in different races. I mean, he ran unopposed in the last election for Greater Lowell, but he got beat by Sabrina Heisey not too long ago for the school committee. So having this as a school committee race, what do you think is going to bring more people out that may not tend to vote for a Matt Sheehan? What do you think?
I don't know. In terms of the school committee race, I think what's going to bring people out this year is the violence. At the high school, I really think it's going to be the discipline issues and the mental health that drive people out to vote who don't normally vote, right? Because now you're looking at extra policemen in the building, you're looking at bodyguards the school hired that can't even touch a child. I think it's going to be the discipline. I really do.
Gordy's got that site up. Why don't you pull up his computer?
Yeah, this is the Josh Taylor side.
And it's votedracut.com?
Yep.
And what's on that site that's interesting that can spur some people to vote? What do you
So
think?
we've got the candidates.
If you actually click the candidates, I believe it brings you to like a short description of each of them. Oh, I thought the plant. That's the plant behind.
What is that picture? Oh my Lord!
I thought that was his
Josh,
as well.
that's awesome. I wish I saw that.
Like I don't know. Give Phil a click. See what pops up.
See what pops up.
I'm pretty sure if you click them.
Well,
There's no.
Oh, is it not?
No.
It must be in a different section because I remember clicking the candidates.
and something comes up about each one
Yeah,
of the
like a
candidates?
description. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be able to click.
Try on
in.
their name. No, nothing.
No. It's
Nothing.
not clickable.
Okay.
Maybe I'm starting to lose it.
It says click on their picture to bring up more information.
Yeah, well, it worked on my phone, so perhaps on mobile.
There you
So
go.
Jennifer's
Oh, there we
works.
Okay.
Just a little description of who they are and whatnot.
Very disappointed in Jennifer because she's putting on ads out there saying how she wants to be transparent and all that stuff. But in reality, she won't come on our show, right? Because obviously her campaign managers, the Ginests, won't let her, and that's all well and good. But she could come on here and face some of the questions that need to be answered about. Does she approve of her campaign manager doing the hit pieces that are going on against Phil? Phil Thibault, that Brian Ginesse wrote, the terrible thing he wrote about, all lies, by the way, and we talked about that during our last show. And how about the FOIAs, the numerous FOIA requests on Tony Archinsky? And we're not going to get into that baloney with them because it's all dirt and it's all garbage. And this is what they do. And Ginesse, Allison, and her husband they ran the campaign saying that they don't want dirty politics. And Jen is saying the same thing on her Facebook page with the telephone there, that she's making phone calls, but she's not going to get into the dirty politics of Dracut. Her manager is the dirty politics of Dracut.
Here's
And Lucky Fazina and all that whole group, that's the dirty politics. They want to be the kingmakers, but they get upset when you mention their names, right? They get upset when they mention their names.
Jen, here's what I'll say about Jen, right? I met her a few times through the Sarah Powling and Rob Shepard group, the pro-choice mask group. And I had pleasant conversations with her. She seems like a very nice woman. Her daughter goes to the high school. She's a senior. I know her. Very nice girl. So I don't know. It's a shame.
Is she a pro-masker?
No.
She's an
no.
anti-masker?
The mother, yes.
Yeah, and was she anti-vax?
I don't know. I think she was pro-choice across the board. So it's a shame to see her go.
Jen,
to
if
the
you
other
want
side.
to call in 978-957-4243, you can answer some of these questions for us because we don't have any questions. How do you feel about taxes, Jen? You're telling us that you're a farmer, that you're coming from a farming family, but I don't believe you were actually a farmer. No more than Allison Ginesse was a farmer when she says, "Oh, they come from a farming background."
Well, it could be Green Acres.
I mean, it's not. They're not. Their families, their forefathers had things to do. In fact, Jen and Jen's family really benefited by the town of Dracut CPEA program because didn't the town buy the Richardson farm?
Yes, they did.
And isn't that Jen's family?
I don't know that, but
it's Jen's family. That's the Richardson ice cream and Richardson farm. That's off of Greenmont Ave and off of Bridge Street. So, I mean, you can put all that together. But Phil Thibault is probably one of the most knowledgeable candidates in this race.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as what he knows about the town, how he knows how to, navigate through all of the different landmines within the different town committees. He's on several committees. And, I mean, he's probably one of the most qualified
Talk
people
about
to be on.
government and civics that we asked.
Right.
He knows pretty much everything
he
you can
knows
ask
it.
He
him.
could
lot
teach
of
the
it.
class 10 times over.
Yeah. But Matt Sheehan has been nothing but a coat holder, along with him and his friend, his good friend, what's his name, the O'Brien guy, who there's hundreds of pictures of them
Kevin?
on the internet.
Kevin O'Brien?
Is that his name?
Is that-
Is that his name? Kevin O'Brien? Who is it? Is it Kevin O'Brien? oh, Kevin. You mean the lucky oil useful idiot? Because that's.
Oh, I mean the guy who,
lucky-
campaigns himself right outside of the polling place.
Town
during
Hall West.
DATV elections.
Yeah. Town Hall West. And, now just by mentioning his name, I know he's going to go off, but that's okay. But, we have other people that like to go off on our show also and like to talk about us being the people, and I don't want the names mentioned.
Right.
Because I don't want to get them all excited that we are talking about. I love that picture of Matt Sheehan. Can we put that picture up again? Let's see that picture. Can you put that computer up again? Click on Gordy's computer. Oh, look at that. That's funny.
The plan is part
That's
of his
funny.
head, it looks like.
I don't know if Josh Taylor did that on purpose or not, but anyways, it's a shame that they want to play that kind of dirty politics. So what other races are there in town?
Well, the school committee, I'm really excited. I don't even know. I don't think you can go wrong. You vote for any of them, I don't think you can really go wrong. I was very pleased with the little debate we had here tonight.
I was disappointed that the two candidates.
Right, but I mean,
didn't-
the three that were here,
And
I think
because
they
they
all
had
did a
committed.
great job.
Yeah, they did a
Yep.
great job. They did a great job, and they certainly have, forwarded themselves as good candidates
Right.
in the way that they approached everything tonight. What did you think, Richard? You had a recent article up on
Yes.
our page about violence at the high
Yes.
school. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about it?
So honestly, the violence it's gotten worse at the high school. It's a roller coaster. It goes up and down. But that poor kid who got his leg snapped, let me tell you. The response I got from that article, really, the people who I spoke to, it really surprised us. I really personally didn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, the major issue people took up was the comment about the leg hanging off the gurney. And as I repeated many, many times, even though we're just an amateur, news source, across the industry, the standard is you report the news as you're getting it and you update it and correct things as you go along. Right. I mean, the following day, from a more trustworthy source, it was reported to me that wasn't true, so I went back and I corrected that. The second thing people took issue with was the comment that the ambulance whisked the person away. I don't know if it's because people don't like using different adjectives, but I don't see a problem with the word whisk. I certainly hope if I fell down the stairs, an ambulance would whisk me to the hospital. I wouldn't want them to crawl. But I think it takes away from the issue in whole. I mean, this isn't just a stupid, fight over a girl in the hallway. A kid got his leg snapped.
Right. So what do you think was
terrible.
the reason that they went off on you so much on that? Which, by the way, we like seeing that.
Absolutely.
We like seeing the interactions.
I like
on
stirring
our-
the pot a bit.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do.
And my reaction to that, shame on you. I mean, I feel like it didn't matter if that was about a fight or if that was about a tax increase. People, it's the same people who attack us over and over again, right? And I went back, like I said, I made the correction, and those same people hated, right? If I had just reported what we knew as a fact, and the things that I did report as witness statements I clearly labeled as such, as they're subject to change, right? But if we just put the black and white facts, it would have said 2 kids got involved at a fight at the high school, 1 was taken away by ambulance, period. And those same people would have complained about a lack of information.
Right.
It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So we have we have 2 candidates for library trustee. What does the library trustee do, Gordy?
I think they manage the daily activities at the library.
Yeah, exactly.
My wife and I we were driving today through Dracut, and we drove by, and I think there were 3 cars out front, and she said, "That's a shame, that beautiful building."
Oh, it's a wonderful place.
And not many people, no one, it's not used very much.
Really?
We spent a lot of money on it, but we could be wrong, but every time I drive by,
have any comments?
I don't see anyone in that building or many people in the building.
Well, at some point, do you think that libraries will be a thing of the past?
I
hope
mean, I
not.
No.
I truly hope
I
not.
think that it's going that way because everyone has a computer or a cell phone, and everything's at
Which
your.
water district do you live in?
I live in the Kenwood Water District.
Kenwood, which is
Yeah.
the town water
Yes.
supply, and you live in the Dracut Water Supply District.
I believe so.
If you're
yeah.
going to be a voter next year, because you're going to be 18 when, in June?
June 21st.
June
Yep.
21st, oh, I got to remember that. So if you're going to be a voter, you need to know that you're in the water district, right?
Well, now I know. Yeah, exactly.
And Bob Corey is running for re-election there.
Is he?
Yes, he's running for re-election. He's unopposed, but Town Hall West was trying to get a candidate against him. And several people were approached. I was one that was approached by, not Town Hall West, but from other people.
Yeah.
But I refused to do it because I consider Bob and Gay good friends, friends of mine. And,
Yes. They're wonderful people.
They do a decent job. and
They're both
what have you.
veterans. They both served our country.
But we mentioned the library trustee, but we didn't mention the candidates. May Paquette, who was a former school committee member, who was a DATV, original DATV board of directors here at DATV, a very fine board of director. And also, she serves on the Cable Access Committee as the chairman there. And then James Nolan, who's an elderly gentleman who's been a library trustee for a while. We also have a race for moderator, which is unusual, but not in the town of Dracut, because you know why? The Lucky crew, the Town Hall West crew, isn't happy with George Meliaris. They're not happy that George appointed Rich Cowan to the Finance Committee. And they want him now removed, and they want George to lose the seat to Dave Martin, who's a former firefighter, a decent guy. I just think that he's another useful hand puppet for the Town Hall West. And he's their candidate, and I'm sure he's vowed to remove Rich Cowan or anybody else that the Town Hall West doesn't like on any committees that are controlled by the town moderator. So in that race, it's a difficult thing for us to sit here and just determine who we're going to vote for. It's 2 meetings a year. George Meliaris and I have had history in the past, but I'll probably be casting my vote for George Meliaris. How about you?
Same for me.
Yeah.
My imaginary vote will go.
The imaginary vote will go that way. So, is there anything else that we want to talk about tonight before we go on to?
I just want to say hi to. I told Don Moose Morielski I'd send him a shout out tonight. So Don, thanks. We'll see you around the neighborhood.
Don Morosky called me and told me that you stayed, but you stopped by his house the other day while you were walking, and that you had everything going. By the way, our next show, I'm not going to be here. I'll be out of town for a couple of days, but Gordy and Richard are going to take up the mantra next week, and hopefully we'll have a great show.
Yes.
Right?
I'm sure we will.
So I'm sure you will. So, folks, it's time. We have 11 seconds left. Gordy, you do your job, Gordy.
Okay.
Come on, do your job.
Folks, we hope you enjoyed our show tonight. We want to, again, thank the candidates for coming tonight and having a great conversation. And when it's Wednesday and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night.
So long, folks.